Hi everyone, it's a couple of hours later now, and this video will be shorter than the first two. One of the implications of what I'm calling professional communication today in this very vital, energetic, and personal environment is that it's really important in your, the various forms of communication to be very concrete and not abstract about what you're saying. As I was saying, emails can go way beyond the intended recipient. Emails can be read by people in Berlin, Russia, New Delhi, Tokyo, and Shanghai, and so on and so forth. And the people who are reading your emails sometimes are not so aware or perfectly aware of the geographical realities of which you're referring to. So you have to always make a little bit of effort to specify and be concrete. And when in doubt, just give them a link or do a screenshot of the area that you're talking about, if that's the case. Now, in terms of our assignments are mostly role-playing assignments. And what I really want to focus on in this video is what I've been calling fictionalization. So, very often in all our assignments, you'll be asked to take the position or take the role of a manager of some level or another and respond or interact with someone else. Now, in order to really write concrete, specific emails and reports and memos and papers, it might very well be that you have to fictionalize. That is to say, you might have to invent a position for yourself, a role in a company for yourself or in an organization for yourself. You might have to invent places. You might have to fictionalize a little bit your experience. And what I want to say here is I want to urge you to use your imagination here, and don't be bound by sort of strict and absolute accuracy to your own experience. Now, you want to be realistic about this, but once again, in the sense of putting yourself, as I was saying in the previous video, putting yourself in the other person's shoes. You want to make sure that the other person can easily visualize and grasp what it is you're talking about. So if you have to, once again, fictionalize or invent to some extent, please feel free to go ahead and do so. I don't really think that there's a situation where you can go too far for your assignments, because I'm after sort of imagined reality. Now, way later on in the course, when we're actually doing research-based papers, that's going to be a tiny little bit different, but I will work with you on that. And in any case, if it happens that you happen to say something that, if I can say it like this, doesn't work or is not appropriate, I'll just tell you and you can do it again. You can resubmit the paper. That's one of the reasons, by the way, that I have such a liberal do-over policy. That is, these papers, I see them as trial and error. And the reason for that has to do, again, as I'm saying, with the realities of contemporary professional communication and correspondence. Now, I'm going to work with you at the beginning of next week on a series of contrasts between academic writing and professional writing, which we've discussed a little bit before, but it's just so important. And this is sort of a case in point. And let me sort of make a very precise point here. In academic writing, for the most part, you really have one shot to do it. In standard, traditional, typical academic writing. You're writing for a professor, and you have a fixed deadline, and you have one chance to do it. In professional writing, it's exactly the opposite. As I'm arguing, first of all, you don't have such a stable audience in the first place. That's point number one. Point number two, the intention of the assignment, or the intention of the communication that you're working on in professional sphere can change. Projects change, goals change, markets change really, really constantly. So that's point number two. The goal, shall I say, of the professional correspondence and professional communication is not so stable. It's fluid, like the audience. The third thing I think is even more important, and that is, once again, in academic writing, for the most part, you do it once. That's really not the norm in professional communication and professional correspondence, where, the standard is to rewrite something many times. And I don't want you to see this as a big issue or something you want to be afraid of. To explain this in very simple terms. I write something for my supervisor. My supervisor, for whatever reason, maybe a bad reason, maybe a good reason, isn't satisfied with it. They just give it back to me, and they make some suggestions, and then I do it again. And there's no, in 99.9% of the situations, there's no repercussions. If anything, I would say a good professional communicator is not someone who can get it right the first time, but someone who can interact with colleagues and interact with supervisors to get it right after 3 and 4 and 5 times. So what I'm driving at here is, I think our pretty tolerant do-over or resubmit policy in Com 210 as I teach it is actually more realistic than it would be if I were just saying do it once and that's it. That's really not the way professional communication is. And after, especially, in a sense, kind of banal to say it like this, but the higher you get, that is sort of the more complex your writing is, the more you have to rewrite. And, I would say here, let me just put it like this. In most of the professional communication that I have been and am involved in, I'm more the co-author than the author. And even when I have total control over the project, even when I am the project leader designated by, supervisors, however high they might be, if anything, then I'm even more of a co-author. I sort of, give people some guidelines. I might write the first couple of sentences, maybe at the most, and then I send it out to my coworkers and have them finish it. And most of the time, I get it back and I maybe touch it up again. But sometimes not even. I don't really see it a final time. We don't have time. I just have to trust them and sort of hope for the best. And after you do this for a while, you get really good at it. And you get really self-certain. And that's sort of why, it's one of the reasons why I want us to have a really relaxed attitude towards this first draft, second draft, third draft. And, quite frankly, after teaching this class quite a few times now, I never have any problems with this. The students, it takes them, a few weeks to kind of get used to this. And once they do, they kind of relax and they realize that, they try really hard for the first submission, but then if it doesn't go quite right, or if they kind of see the way it should be as they're finishing, they just submit it and then they redo it, a week later. And anyways, that's one of the reasons why I'm so relaxed in this class. And once again, to repeat myself, I think that stays closer to the reality of professional writing and professional communication than the standard academic format. Okay, I'm going to talk to you more about that next time. Once again, I'm sorry, I meant for this to be 2 minutes, but went to be 10. Okay, but in any case, this will be the last video of the weekend. Have a great weekend, and I hope everyone has a rewarding, relaxing, I keep saying holiday, but it's just the weekend. Okay, thanks everyone.